It is very possible to get your property onto the market and sold at top dollar, even during the wintertime in Alaska, but there are some special considerations that you need to take into account when you're making that happen. My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska with Keller Williams, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching in real estate. And today, we're going to be talking about the special things you need to take into consideration as you are getting your property ready to sell during the wintertime. I've heard a lot of people that, for some reason, just think there's a law against selling homes in Alaska during the wintertime, but realistically, I've seen it's been a very good time of year to sell properties. Especially the past couple of years, there really hasn't even been that much of a dip from the summer to the winter time. And usually there's a little bit of a seasonal dip, but I just have not seen that very much at all lately. So it's still a great time to get your home on the market. There are just some things we need to make sure that we take into account as far as the staging and getting the property prepared that we don't really have to worry about during the summertime. Before we get started though, do make sure you give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and let's go ahead and jump into today's topic. Now, one of the first big things that I want to say here is don't be cheap when it comes to heating. Unfortunately, seeing a lot of people where they, let's say they're out of town and they're like, oh, okay, we'll just set it for like 60 degrees. We're going to save some money on heat and people can just go in and see the house. No, don't do that. Don't try to be cheap when it comes to heating when you're trying to show the house, because I've literally gone into houses before where we just stepped inside and the buyers never took their coat off, and you could see they were actually pretty uncomfortable with the property just because it was so cold. Okay, you want that house to feel warm and receptive and like they can go in there and just not worry about having to freeze to death. Okay, it's very hard for a buyer to feel emotionally connected to a property when they're shivering in the doorway. So make sure it's warm, it's cozy. I'd say probably, go for 70 degrees or something like that while it's there, while you're showing it. Okay, I know for some people that's going to seem absurdly high, but you want it to be warm and receptive, and it's really hard to do when people are shivering in there. Not only that, people are walking in, and if it's cold in there, the first thing they think is, oh my word, there's probably something wrong with the heater or the furnace. Not a great first impression, and it might be subliminal? It might be subconscious, but they know. The next thing I would say is make sure it is as bright in there as you can possibly get it. So this can be a little tough during the wintertime because for the most part, we don't have a lot of natural sunlight, but what you can do is make sure you've got extra lamps, you've got all the curtains open that you possibly can to let light in if it's during the daytime, and just really trying to make sure it's as bright as you can. Now, you also want to make sure that if you're doing this, you don't use really cheap, really bright and obnoxious light bulbs, okay? You're wanting to go for, again, kind of that warm, receptive, bright kind of a feeling. So if you can find a light bulb like that, that's going to beat out these little cheap light bulbs that are just bright for the sake of being bright. You want a light more like that right back there than you necessarily want from any of the other lamps that are pointing at me right now. So want it to be as warm and bright as possible and as inviting as possible. This one should be a no-brainer, but during the wintertime, we're going to get snow, and so you need to make sure that your driveway and your sidewalk are very well shoveled, and you've got a lot of your stuff out of the way so people can feel like they're not having to trudge through the 3-4 feet of snow, however much it is, to get to the house. Okay, it's very hard for them, again, to feel like they're connected to the place, and makes them start wondering, okay, they don't even take care of their driveway. What other maintenance items have they let go? So at a minimum, shovel it or have a snow blower out there. And I would say definitely put down some gravel, put down some salt, and make sure that it looks like you care. Okay, that's really what you're trying to prove. This next one might be more for the real estate agents out there, but if you're going to put the little lockbox on the gas meter around the side of the house, like let's say with a doorknob, it just makes more sense to do that instead of hanging it from this little handle where the lockbox can slip right off of it and there's not really a knob, and you need to go hang it on the gas meter. That's perfectly fine, but make sure there is some kind of path or some kind of cleared pathway that you've shoveled out to the gas meter so it's a little bit easier to get to it. And so again, the buyers aren't standing there watching the real estate agent having to just jump through all the snow to get to the key, because that's probably not going to put the real estate agent in a great mood when they're having to do that. And they're the ones that are going to be giving feedback to the buyer and telling them what they think about the property. So, just make sure you put yourself in a great position by keeping that person in a good mood. Let's take a break real quick here. For those of you who've been watching for a bit, you do know that I have a seller guide for those of you who are considering getting your homes on the market in the near future. And if this is something that would benefit you, do make sure that you reach out to my website. The link for that is going to be in the description section down below. And just go register onto the website, and in the little comment section, just make sure you put seller guide so I know what to send you. Now, let's go and finish today's video. One of the biggest things that I can say if you're selling during the wintertime is make sure there is a really pleasant aroma in the house. So you're not going to smell, kind of the aroma that your house has just because you've gotten so used to it. But especially during the wintertime when you've got people inside a lot more, you've got pets that are inside a lot more, these houses can really start to get kind of pungent. So you really want to make sure that you've got some candles going, you've got some good senses that are some good aromas, kind of some pleasant smelling fresheners maybe that are going on. So when people walk through the door, they're kind of hit with this nice, pleasant, kind of neutral aroma, and it's not really this cocktail of smells that you get in these Alaska houses because everyone's been cooped up for so long. So yes, make sure you go the extra step and make sure you really focus on the olfactory senses. And for the love of all things that are good, please, if you have a well and a septic tank, make sure that you have those pipes clearly identified before the snow flies, if at all possible. This isn't an issue because they never cut their pipes down. For some people, I've seen where they didn't like how the septic tank looked, and so they just went and they didn't like how the pipes coming out of the ground for the septic tank looked. So what they did is they went and just cut it all the way down to the soil, which made it look like, just a normal yard at that point with no pipes coming up. I get that, but they completely lost track of where the pipes were. And it's winter time now, and so it was a big issue for a while trying to find those pipes. And it took us like a solid week or so of trying to send people over there to find it. And that's not the engineer's job to go clear your yard, okay? That's your job to know where your pipes are. So make sure that you know where the pipes are, and if you have, cut the pipes down to the ground during the wintertime, make sure that you have the little flags on there so you know exactly, so the engineer is going to know exactly where they're at. Make sure that you have pictures of the yard before the snow flies, okay? So it can be professional, it can be, preferably it's professional. If not, I'll take just any picture that you have. Really what we want to do is just show what the condition of the yard is during the summertime. And especially if it's just nothing but dirt out there and it's now covered in snow, we definitely want to disclose that, okay? So we don't want to have the buyers have a nasty surprise as soon as breakup happens because they're going to feel tricked. Whether that's your intention or not, you want to make sure that we're really upfront about what condition the yard is in. If it's great, then awesome. We'll just put a little picture up there and that's something they can look forward to. If the yard is really patchy or it's just a lot of weeds, it's out of control, or like I said, it's just dirt, then we want to make sure they are aware of that as well. And last but not least, when you're trying to go the extra step in selling your home during the wintertime, I would really recommend just going and lighting some candles in the property. So this is great because again, it's kind of that olfactory senses if you can find some scented candles. So that's awesome. But also, it kind of has this nice, warm, receptive light to it as well. So it really does help quite a bit. Don't go overboard. We're not trying to make it feel like a cathedral during Mass, but we do want to make sure that there are some candles lit throughout the house and make sure that it feels warm and receptive as you're going in. So I sure hope this has been useful for you. If it has, as always, give this video a like. Do subscribe if you haven't done so already. If you have any other questions about what it's like selling your home, do feel free to reach out to me on my website down below and we'll chat a little bit and see how best I can help you. Talk with you later.